Hello, today is March 5th, 2026, and today is the 16th day of Lent. This morning I got up around, I think it was right at 7 o'clock, and got ready and then did my silence and stillness contemplative prayer, and this morning was good. I feel like um, I dropped in quickly and I stayed in it essentially for the entire time. And I also felt and noticed that I I dropped into a little bit deeper space than the previous 15 days. And today there was basically this moment of recognizing, of remembering meditation seasons of the past, and feeling that I'd gone to a place where it was a full body scan with each breath and with each reciting of each of the fruits. So with love, breath, feeling the breath wash over and through me all the way down, and then back up with the exhale, saying love again, joy all the way. And I almost made it through all of the fruits with in one concentration. I didn't quite make it today, but I recognized in that moment that I had not been in that spot in the last 15 days. And so today I dropped into a deeper space of being more than just noticing that I'm breathing, actually, and more than even noticing the sensation of my breath as it travels, into my lungs, but it was like a full body scan with each breath, and feeling, you can feel your entire body at all times, but you just don't think about it. And so to be in a moment where you're present with all the sensation that is a consciousness inhabiting a body, and your body having sensation from head to toe at all times, but you rarely are in a spot to feel it all at the same time. And I was close, if not there, to feeling everything at once. And one thing that I don't really talk about ever or a lot is the pain of silence and stillness meditation. That there's pain all throughout especially my back, legs, and there are times where there is kind of a tension pain, of holding my back up, or just sitting on my knees that long. There's that kind of deeper resonant pain, and then there's more higher frequency acute pain of like occasionally a cramp in my upper thigh, something like that. And in all those instances, I still don't move. And if I do move, I try to move as slowly and as intentionally as possible, where it's like the pain starts, or I notice the pain, It isn't a immediate reaction to move to get out of that pain. It is a recognizing of the pain, trying to focus my attention directly on the pain, where it's at, how it feels, and enduring it. But in the endurance and paying attention to it, oftentimes it transforms from this sharper frequency to a warmth and then ultimately dissipates. Back pain is very similar but also different, of like, I may notice it and focus on it, but I'll also slowly shift my posture, because just noticing that I had gone from straight up of stacking from pelvis to neck and resting there to drifting into like a hunched posture, and just kind of slowly bringing that back and stretching while I'm doing it. And then there's also times of maybe a itch comes on, where it's like, it was today or yesterday, there was like an intense itch right on my eyebrow, and not moving and not scratching it, and just sitting there with it, enduring it, paying attention to it, and with my, not trying to ignore it away, but almost will it away. But it's not even that. It's not like willing it away sounds, kind of like praying it away, and that's not what I mean. It's more so with my mind's eye, scratching it from the inside of, and that's closer to the truth, but not quite. It's kind of a double, it's like if something is hurting, it's the only thing you can think about. And it's that, but different than that, because it's hurting or it's itching, and it's not taking my attention away. I'm giving it my attention and focusing on, what does it feel like? Where exactly is it at? And through that, in my experience so far, it's gone away. Back pain doesn't go away. It's more so the acceptance of it, the endurance of it, the long suffering, and letting that pain be a part of the symphony of all that is. It's like everything is happening, and pain is a part of what is happening. And so it's like, it's acceptance and not letting it take my attention away. Accepting that it's a part of the full body sensation, and just letting it be. Yeah. That may not be that's the closest words that I think I'm going to arrive at today. But after my meditation, I got up, I went and grabbed a black tea, and then I went to the church and journaled. I did not allow myself enough time for a good journaling session. I kind of had to rush through it a bit because like 8:50, a couple of guys that are helping me with a video project for Easter, they showed up to set up because today we shot a video story of a guy named Hamed and his wife Liz, but it was mostly Hamed's story, and it's insane because Hamed is in his 30s, probably early 30s, and he is from Iran, and he now lives here. He's about to move to the UK as a missionary, but the reason we filmed his story is because his story starts in Iran, and he was on the Iran national basketball team, and I'm trying to remember, there were some sort of refugee or exchange student or something. I'm not remembering this part correctly, but there were some foreigners in Iran, and they were not allowed to basically interact with the Iranians because they were outsiders. They were knowledgeable of Christianity. Some of them were Christian, and so they were escorted and watched by the secret police. Well, turns out that Hamed gets into conversation with one of these people, and through relationship and conversation gets to talking about Christ, Christianity, Jesus, the Jesus story. And he gets connected and finds the underground church in Iran. Through this relationship and finding the underground church, he comes to know Christ, and he receives visions from Christ. He chooses to become a Christian, and he chooses to get baptized as a Christian. He does this all in secret, and he talks about how he has a few like best friends in the whole world. They were his, through and through ride or die buddies. He said he calls them, they're not his blood brothers, but he calls them brothers because of how close they are. They are his brothers. So he ends up confiding in these two guys and telling them that he has accepted Christ, and he's now a Christian, and he's no longer going to be Islamic, Muslim. He's no longer going to be a Muslim. And one of those guys, turns out he was working with and for the secret police, and he turns him in, rats him out. He doesn't know this, but one day, some big guys, some huge guys, he says, because Hamed is a big guy. He was on the the Iranian national basketball team. He's a basketball player. His physique is that of a basketball player. But these guys were even bigger. And these huge guys, they roll up, throw a bag over his head, they rough him up, put him into a car, and drive away. They drive, put him into a room, and then they start humiliating him, and they break his leg. They beat him up. They laugh at him. They dishonor him, and they find enjoyment in this. And after 3 days of this, they take him and they drop him in the middle of a highway, and tied up, bag over his face, drop him, drive off. People stop and help him get untied and see that his leg is broken and he's all bloodied up. He's been beaten, he's bruised, and they're, trying to help him. They help him get in contact with his dad. His dad is immediately, whenever he calls and says that it's his son, he gets mad and he said, your mom hasn't heard from you for 3 days. Where have you been? What have you been doing? And he said, Dad, you don't understand. Come to this location. And so either he's still on the side of the highway, or one of the bystanders gave him a ride to a location where he could get picked up. And the location was an hour away from where his home. And so his dad gets a car and drives to the location, finds him, sees how beaten he is, and immediately knows, because he's told his dad, that he's become a Christian. And he tells him the story, and he knows that this is because he has become a Christian that this has happened to him. He drives him home, and whenever they get there, the secret police, the guys who kidnapped him, are waiting outside in a car. They're just observing. They don't do anything. They let everything happen, but they're there and they're watching. And they let him go so that they could follow him, and so they could figure out who's helping him, where he's going, etc. But Hamed recognizes that they are sitting there. His dad calls his brother, Hamed's uncle, and they say, we need to get you out of the country, and we need to go right now. And he says, no, you don't understand. That's them. They are outside. So his uncle apparently is a very connected guy and has enough cash on hand to arrange for him to fly, to get enough. He had enough connections with people and able to pay enough people to clear a path and get him on a flight. But they had to get out of the house without the secret police seeing that Hamed has left. So he's a big guy, and they stuff him in the trunk. Apparently, they must have a garage, or the cars, in the back, or something, because the secret police don't see them put Hamed in the back of the car, but they do see his dad leave alone. And so I'm not sure of the exact details, but I don't think they're followed, because they believe Hamed is still in the house. And they drive straight to the airport. Everybody who was paid off to help helped, and they got him on a flight and out of the country. And I'm not sure if he goes straight to Austria or if there was a hop, skip, and a jump, but he ends up in Austria and files for asylum as a refugee. And they grant it to him, and they put him in a refugee camp in Austria, Vienna, Austria. And he says this was the worst time of his life, being in a room, sleeping, 100 deep, bunk beds. And said his shoes and a lot of his belongings were stolen the very first night he was there. And, he's living there for however long he's living there in this nicer than most refugee camps, because in Vienna it's an actual building and not rows of tents. But in the building, it's still a big room with 100 people sleeping in it. So, and then he said they gave him like $40 a month for everything that he, food, transportation, supplies. Like that was what he got, was $40. And he's like, you can't live off of that and the food in the refugee camp is like the lowest of low, awful food, and so you want to spend your money on uh, on food, but you basically can't because there's no way you can afford it. Um, and then while this is happening, he gets connected with a Christian church nearby, and so he's a part of the church. And there's a girl named Liz from Mexico who moved. I might be getting uh, detail wrong here, but she moved to Austria to serve with the church and um, to help refugees. And so she's a part of this church, and she also goes to the refugee camp to serve and help the refugees in the way that she can. And so Hamed and Liz meet in that way, and she speaks Spanish as first language, English as second language. He only knows Farsi, and they are both learning German because they're in Vienna. And when they start dating, and while they are first dating, they use Google Translate to talk to each other, and simultaneously they are both learning German to speak to each other. And then after learning German, because that's where he's if she also speak English, so he could learn English, but that wouldn't help him in his current living situation because everybody there speaks German. So he learns German first. And then English becomes his third language. And now they speak English to each other. And I'm sure they can speak German to each other as well, but they speak English to each other. So, and from Vienna, because she has citizenship in America, she has dual Mexican American citizenship, I believe. And so they get married, and he's able to come here with her. But he's not an American. He just has a like a spouse visa situation is what I believe. But they're leaving in 10 days to go back to Vienna to renew his asylum paperwork with Austria. And then after that, they're going to come back here and take care of some paperwork that they're getting done for going to the UK to be missionaries with refugees in the UK. So wild story. And just thinking about Iran and these Muslim countries, Islamic countries, they just Iran specifically, because he lived there and he told me the story of he wasn't it's illegal. It is against the law, illegal to have a Christian Bible. There is secret police that follow people around to, if they find out you have Christian paraphernalia, or if you have become a Christian, or if you're a part of the secret church in any way, they will kidnap you, break your leg, and beat you to death, beat you half to death. Like, it's serious consequences, to where he had to escape the country or face death because he found Christ. And it's just wild to think about. You don't do that for religion. Like, he didn't he didn't find um, heaven and hell, the story of heaven and hell, and then was so fearful of dying and going to this Christian hell uh, because he was Muslim, that he became a Christian, and then because of that he's um, persecuted, beaten, kidnapped, and has to escape and flee a country and go start a whole new life without his family, living in a refugee camp where he says it's the worst time of his life. Um, you he that it He didn't do that because he was motivated by this story of not going to hell, or this story of if he does good, he's going to heaven. He does this because he met Christ. He had visions and was awakened to who Christ is and what Christ does for him spiritually. Not as a story, not as a counter religion to the religion that he grew up in. He encountered the living Christ, and he had no other choice but to completely change his life because of it. And that this is the second Iranian to come to City Church with a very similar story. The uh, the first couple, Parissa and uh, I'm forgetting his name now. He he wasn't kidnapped and had his leg broken, um, but he was found out by the government that he was Christian, and he did have to um, flee so that his legs wouldn't be broken, and um, f- fled as a refugee. And I don't remember what country he ended up first, but then ended up in America as well. And he was at City Church for a while, but because of his refugee status, ended up having to move wherever they're at now. Uh, but he's the same way. That because the reason he was in Tulsa is because he was studying to be a doctor, and he was going to college here in town to get his medical degree. Um, and he couldn't go back because he became a Christian. Um, Anyways, just crazy. America is full of cultural Christians who have never genuinely encountered Christ and take it for granted. And even people like me who have encountered Christ and devote my entire being to pursuing it, I've never faced legitimate persecution because of it. Maybe I'm a social outcast, or maybe you know like minuscule social ramifications in comparison, but in some ways and in some circles, I would be more socially ostracized if I wasn't a Christian, in certain points of my life. But it's just crazy that both of these things are true, and Christ is real.